So, looking at organic compounds or substances, organic substances are going to contain carbon, which is really important. It was a question on your quiz from last week. So, there are four types of main organic compounds that are essential for life. So, we need them, plants need them, but they allow us to function and operate the way we need to. So, one of the first important ones are carbohydrates. So, carbohydrates, carbs, you hear about them all the time. People are saying, I'm going to cut carbs from my diet or sugar. But we need carbohydrates in order to function, in order for our body to do work. We can find carbohydrates, sugars, in a lot of different foods. And in Bio 20, so a little ways from now, if you guys choose, you'll learn all about carbohydrates and their molecular composition, so what they look like. But really, what they are is their sugar, glucose. You and I need glucose in order for our body to function, for our muscles to contract, for things to be transported throughout our body, for any work to be done in our body. We need glucose, we need sugar. Now that glucose molecule, it can be rearranged and it can look very different. And so some differences are like if we look at fruits, you would see the sugar as fructose. So the way it's bound together, that molecule is a little different and we call it fructose. There's also in candy, sucrose, which you guys might have heard of. There's also galactose and glycogen, and you guys have probably heard of cellulose in plants. So plants, in order for them to be strong and to grow upright, they actually take the sugars that they make through photosynthesis and they convert them into a sugar called cellulose. And cellulose is a very strong molecule or compound. And so it is what creates the structure to those cells and to the plant. Potatoes are always known as starch, or you might have heard them be called starches. Okay, so they're what we call polysaccharides. So they're really complex sugars that we can break down. And so carbohydrates, sugars are important because they provide us with energy that our body needs to do work. Now, if you were to eat a piece of candy, then you're getting a pretty simple sugar. And you guys might have heard the term simple sugars. Simple sugars go inside your body and you use them up very quickly and then you expel them. And so they're not that great for us. And what they do is they actually spike our blood sugar levels in our body, and then we pump our bodies full of insulin in order to regulate that sugar. And that's when we look at things like diabetes and pancreatic issues. So eating a lot of sugar isn't good, although it does give us energy that we need. Some sugars or carbs that are better for you, that require a little bit of energy to break down and utilize and don't spike our blood sugar levels, are things like rice and potatoes, more complex carbohydrates. Okay. So sugar, the molecule, you wouldn't have had to memorize this or anything like that, but you would have to know some examples of carbohydrates if I had asked. So things like pasta, rice, potatoes, candy, fruits are all high in sugar, high in carbohydrates. And so being an organic molecule, it contains carbon as well as hydrogen and oxygen. And this is what a glucose molecule would look like. It'll have 6 carbons if you want to count them, and it'll have 12 hydrogen and 6 oxygen. Now, if you're looking at something that's like sucrose or fructose or galactose or glycogen or cellulose, different sugars, they're going to have different amounts of carbon. So they might have 10, 12, 14, 22 carbon, different numbers of hydrogen and oxygen, but realistically, or what they are fundamentally, are the same. They're just like glucose. They're all going to be made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, just different ratios, different numbers. Okay. Know that glucose which is what we need in order for our bodies to function and do work. Glucose is called a simple sugar. And then things that are like starches, like your potatoes and your rice, those are all called complex sugars. So they just require our little energy on our part from our body in order to break them down and to absorb glucose. Lipids, a lipid is a fancy word for fat. So you and I need fat in order for a lot of processes to take place, in order for a lot of cells to function and operate, for us to transport hormones and different chemicals. We need fat. So fat is a really important part of our diet. There are different types of fats, and it is a lot more complex than I'm making it. But it's something that you'll dive into in a Bio 20 course when you learn about all these organic molecules a little bit more in depth. But with fat, or a lipid, it is a very big molecule, as you can see. And it's made up of a glycerol, okay, and 3 fatty acids. And so it's a very large molecule, and it requires a lot of energy on our part to break fats down. And that's why if you eat something that's high in fat, you might feel a little sluggish or tired after. If you had like a really greasy burger with a lot of fat in it, then you might feel a little sluggish and tired. That's because your body is actually utilizing a lot of its energy to break down this molecule and absorb what it needs from it. So when we have fat in our body, it stores a lot of energy. And again, it's very useful and important for hormone production and transport. So all these feel-good hormones that we have, dopamine, serotonin. So the transport, movement, and production of those happens because of fat. So it is very important. And again, we just have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but in different ratios here. So different amounts and the way they're bound in order to form this lipid. One other thing is that there are plant fats, which are good for you, okay? So canola oil, avocado has a lot of fat in it, very high in calories, but it's very good for you. And your body is actually able to break down that fat and utilize what it needs. Animal fats, on the other hand, which are solid at room temperature and a little bit more complex in the way they're bound together, animal fats our body cannot break down. And so they just accumulate in our body. And so those animal fats, because they're accumulating, they can cause a lot of problems with our arteries and heart disease. So ingesting too much animal fat is not great for you because our body doesn't have a way of breaking it down effectively. So it just ends up accumulating in our arteries, which can cause high blood pressure and high cholesterol, disease, heart disease. So we just have to be cognizant of how much we're ingesting. But plant fats are really good for you, and that's why you guys might hear a lot about eating nuts. Nuts are really high in fat, or avocados, certain vegetables, certain fruits are high in fat. Fish also is a good fat as well, has lots of amino acids as well. So proteins. You and I are made up of protein. You are protein, right? If I was a cannibal and I ate you, I'd be eating a bunch of protein. So in order for your cells to replicate and to heal themselves, or in order to just be healthy, in order to replicate your DNA and make new cells as old ones are dying and being sloughed off and broken, you need protein because you are protein. So it is incredibly important that you're ingesting enough protein, which are your essential amino acids. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and proteins then do all the stuff in your body and are what you are. Your muscles are made up of proteins. Your enzymes are made up of proteins. So those are guys that do a bunch of work and break down other materials or build materials for us. So protein, you are protein, and you 100% need to eat protein in some way, shape, or form in order to be healthy, in order to replenish your cells, in order to function. You need protein. Your DNA is protein. Um, so arguably, if you eat an animal that is protein, then you're getting all your protein that you need, and that's why you eat chicken and why you eat beef and why you eat fish. You're eating an animal that's made up of protein, so you're going to get protein. But that's not to say that you can't get your protein from other food sources. And so legumes, beans, there are lots of fruits and vegetables where you can get a lot of your protein from, and and your body's also able to digest it effectively. So there are lots of alternatives to just eating an animal and getting the protein from there that you can utilize. So again, lots of like beans, sprouts, legumes, fruits and vegetables are great sources of protein as well. But you need to eat protein in order to be protein, in order to be out and about. Okay? So protein is there for growth and repair of cells. It is your body. And the building blocks of protein are amino acids. They create this like little chain or like pearl necklace. And so with each additional amino acid, an amino acid will create a protein, and that protein will serve a certain function in your body. Think of it like you're creating a little army. And so with all these proteins, they're going to go do stuff. They're going to make new cells, or they're going to break down cells, and they're going to make new DNA. So they're going to tell your body to do stuff. But so those amino acids are the building blocks, and that's what you need. So you might hear, hey, you need to eat protein, or you might need your essential amino acids. Your amino acids make the protein. They are the building blocks. They're what it's composed of. So when you're looking at dieting or foods or nutrition, ways that you can get all those amino acids is awesome. So finding out what amino acids you need and how we can find them in the food that we have is a great starting point to making sure that you're healthy. Enzymes, again, that's a concept that you're going to learn about in like a Bio 20 course. But enzymes, again, what they do is they do work, and they help make new compounds or cells, or they help break down substances in our body. And each enzyme, so think of it like a little warrior or a soldier in your body, each enzyme will have a special job. And so some enzymes are there to break down sugar, for example. Salivary amylase, it's your spit, your saliva. It's a special kind of enzyme that actually breaks down complex sugars into simple ones so that we can absorb them and use them. So there's also pancreatic amylase, which is a special enzyme. So you have lots of little warriors that are doing work for you. And they're either building stuff or breaking it apart. And they work as a lock and key kind of concept. So like I said, each enzyme is specific to doing a certain job, working with a certain compound. They don't just go around doing whatever they want. They're designed and created in our bodies for a very special job. Nucleic acids, okay, are one of the largest and most complicated molecules, and they're virtually your DNA. Okay, and they're made up of your phosphate, simple sugar, and a nitrogen-containing base. When we looked at DNA, we were looking at nucleic acids. But that's the overall structure. For nucleic acids, lots of fruits and vegetables will contain everything that you'll need. So you need that sugar, you need a phosphate, and you need nitrogen and that base. And these are all going to be assembled and designed with proteins as well. So, yeah. So you need carbohydrates, sugars in your diet. Okay? They are what allow your muscles to contract, for you to do work, for you to have the energy to do your day-to-day. You need sugar. The type of sugar varies. And there are good sugars, those complex sugars like starches, potatoes, rice. And then there are sugars that are a little less beneficial for us, like your sucrose and fructose that you find in candy and fruits, because your body just absorbs that sugar, and it's such an influx of sugar that it causes an insulin spike, and your body gets all crazy, and that's why you might notice a sugar high. If you have a lot of candy, then you're on a sugar high because your blood sugar is very high, and you have a lot of energy, but then it runs out very quickly and you crash. Whereas if you eat more complex sugars like starches, those will last a longer period of time, and you'll be able to obtain or take energy from those foods for a little bit longer. And you won't have such a spike and then a decline um, in energy. Fats are very important for hormone production and transport and the structure of a lot of your cells, and they provide energy for a lot longer than carbs do. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and you are protein, so you need to ingest protein in order for the replication and the building of all your cells in your body. And then nucleic acids are large complex molecules that make up your DNA and also help assemble who you are. Okay, so that's it for this week. Hope you guys have a good one, and see you later.